Good evening. Welcome to the Pearl Report. I'm Diana Lin. A proposal at last for the controversial co-location of border checks for the $80 billion Hong Kong leg of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong high-speed rail due to run in a year's time. 1/4 of the West Kowloon Terminus would be leased to mainland authorities for immigration, customs and quarantine facilities. Detractors fear this would damage one country, two systems. The government claims it complies with the basic law and is vital for the entire high-speed rail's success. What does it all mean for Hong Kong people? Yu Chi-chun and his wife are heading to a business meeting in Guangzhou. They left Tai Po shortly after 7 a.m. It took them about half an hour by taxi to the Hong Kong train station.
The through train to Guangzhou takes 2 hours. I expect to take about 3 hours to go from my home to Guangzhou.
He prefers to take the train from Hong Kong because on a train from Tai Po, he'd have to pass the border checkpoint at Lo Wu.
After passing one checkpoint with your Hong Kong ID, you have to walk a stretch with crowds of people pushing and pulling luggage, waiting in a long queue. On the through train, you don't need to change trains.
Yu Chi-chun is in the processed food business. Arriving at a restaurant, he had his frozen food sample heated up for his client to taste.
Now I use a steamer for 5 minutes and it's ready to be plated.
Poised to enter the mainland market, Yu expects to be going to Guangzhou. Taking the train, he sees convenience as paramount.
Anytime a client wants to meet, I can be up there within 2 hours. Going from Hong Kong to the mainland now, you have to pass public security. Only the location has changed.
90% of the work is finished on the Hong Kong leg of the express rail. From the mainland, the train will go through a 26-kilometer tunnel past Pat Hung, Nanchang to West Kowloon Terminus. After delays and over-budgets, the station is almost ready.
This thing started in 2008. Whether you say it's good or not, it's hassled us Hong Kongers for so many years.
I look forward to and hope to take the express rail to Wuhan soon.
Joey has a business in Wuhan and goes there at least once a month. Lawyer Kevin Yam used to go often to Guangzhou for work. We asked them about co-location for the express rail.
I don't reject anything Chinese. You asked if I fear they would be armed. I know there's such talk, but I don't. I worry this sets a precedent in the system. If you use what you say is the law to resolve constitutional problems, then you're harming the business environment.
Maybe it's overreacting. We know today that mainland's laws, livelihood, economy are all developed. We just close the door and tell others it's because we have our independent jurisdiction.
Why did Mr. Deng Xiaoping set 50 years unchanged?
The West Kowloon Terminus has 5 stories. 1 floor below ground is B1, the ticketing hall. B2 is arrivals and B3 departures. B4 is the platform. Co-location means processing both arrivals and departures in the same place. On B2 and B3 would be both Hong Kong and mainland customs areas. Departing passengers would buy their ticket on B1, go down to B3 for Hong Kong exit procedures, then enter the mainland's customs area to be processed for entry into mainland China. The waiting area, as well as the platform below, would also be under mainland jurisdiction. Incoming train passengers reaching the West Kowloon terminus would still be on mainland soil. On B2, only after clearing mainland immigration customs and quarantine procedures would they leave mainland jurisdiction to be processed for entry into Hong Kong. So, areas under mainland jurisdiction would be the platform as well as mainland exit and entry facilities. The Hong Kong port area, ticketing hall and ground level lobby would be under the SAR's jurisdiction.
If we clear customs here once and for all, enforcing the law here is reasonable.
But that's the most unreasonable of all because you're in Hong Kong.
The Express Rail's Hong Kong tunnels to be managed by Hong Kong. But trains in operation, even if they're still on Hong Kong soil, would be under mainland jurisdiction and passengers must abide by mainland laws. Southbound passengers have to clear exit customs at West Kowloon before officially entering Hong Kong.
有內地嘅執法人員喺而家呢個總站下邊嘅地底，第日咧佢就會喺度啦。咁你接唔接受啊？
我接受。I accept.
我接受。你接唔接受？
我 I've reservations 保留嘅。
Compartments for the express rail are being transported to Hong Kong for testing, as the government stressed the merits of co-location.
It will take 14 minutes to reach Shenzhen, 48 minutes to Guangzhou. In future, many long-distance trains will leave from West Kowloon Terminus.
In the National High-Speed Rail Network, the Hong Kong to Guangzhou Lig is the southernmost section of the Beijing-Hong Kong passenger line. From West Kowloon Terminus, trains take 14 minutes to reach Shenzhen's Futian Station, then Shenzhen North, Dongguan Humin, and Guangzhou South stations. Initially, besides linking Hong Kong with 4 cities in Guangdong, the Hong Kong Express Rail also goes to 10 major cities outside the province, including Changsha, Wuhan to Beijing, or coastal Shantou, Xiamen, and Shanghai. Further expansion is expected. Shenzhen North and Guangzhou South are express rail hubs. In future, high-speed rail from many places can end up at the Hong Kong terminus. Kevin Yam admits the express rail is convenient, but queries whether that should be linked to co-location.
Whether you have this co-location arrangement or whether you have 2 sets of clearances, one in Hong Kong, one in China, that is going to take time. If we're really talking about trying to save time, why can't we have clearances on the train after crossing the Chinese border?
It's not very practicable because from Hong Kong to Shenzhen, Futian station, it only takes 14 minutes and you have a carload of passengers.
In 2010, the government applied to LegCo for funds for the high-speed rail. The government said at the time, alternatives such as having separate border checks won't lower the high-speed rail's effectiveness.
Especially those views that in a midway plan, passengers must disembark midway, be checked, then board again. That's not right. Through trains are going from Hong Kong to Shanghai and Beijing, and passengers don't have to alight in Shenzhen to be inspected.
The government promised that they would study all the other proposals apart from co-location. We have jumped from that to now a sort of a fait accompli that you have to accept co-location checkpoint. If they have studied all the other proposals, where are the reports?
From a passenger's perspective, co-location is obviously the ideal solution.
Government documents handed to LegCo earlier estimated 60% of high-speed rail passengers would be destined for Shenzhen. Why can't Shenzhen be the transfer point and border clearance done in Shenzhen North or Futian?
Can you imagine if you are in the arrival hall with thousands of passengers waiting at the immigration? You will end up wasting a lot of time, So the high-speed train will just become a faster through train. Whereas if you have co-location, you already create everything in Hong Kong. I would urge our legislators to pass the legislation as soon as possible. The project will be completed by the third quarter of next year, which is only about a year away. But if the legislation is not ready by then, we run the risk of not opening the station on time.
Co-location arrangements are not new, abroad or in Hong Kong itself. A decade ago, co-location was set up at Shenzhen Bay Port. So why is the same arrangement so controversial for the express rail? More on that after the break. Welcome back to the Pearl Report. The Shenzhen Bay Port opened in 2007. Last year, usage averaged 100,000 times daily. Inside the checkpoint is the spot belonging to Shenzhen that it leases to Hong Kong for in- and outbound border control under the territory's laws. The high-speed rail's co-location arrangement is said to be just a reversed version of Shenzhen Bay's. So why the controversy? From Tuen Mun Town Centre, it's a 10-minute drive to the Shenzhen Bay Bridge. Hong Kong's border with Shenzhen lie mid-bridge, but the entire bridge surface is under Hong Kong jurisdiction, linking the Hong Kong side of the Shenzhen Bay port. The port actually sits on over 40 hectares of Shenzhen land. Hong Kong, as well as mainland immigration and customs, are cleared in the same building for freight, vehicles and passengers. Executive Councillor Ip Kok Him usually drives to meetings on the mainland through Shenzhen Bay Port. On this day, we accompanied him on foot.
Traveling with my neighbors, I mostly use this border checkpoint. At Huanggang, you've got to get out of your vehicle twice. Here, once.
Shenzhen Bay Port is the first to use co-location arrangements for Hong Kong and mainland China. Hong Kong's LegCo passed a local law to extend Hong Kong jurisdiction to Shenzhen. Then the National People's Congress Standing Committee approved the leasing of land. Ip, who's also an NPC deputy, says it took 2 meetings to pass the measure.
The first discussion about the Shenzhen Bay arrangements was heated. Why should there be a place for Hong Kong to manage? 8 or 9 Hong Kong deputies attended at the time. We had to persuade them to lend their support.
Shenzhen Bay Bridge is managed above ground by Hong Kong. On the contrary, for the Express Rail's Hong Kong leg, besides the train depot at Pat Hang, the mainland-managed trains and port are all underground. Ip thinks if Shenzhen Bay can be used as a Hong Kong port, no reason why West Kowloon can't be used by the mainland.
Now this matter is for Hong Kong people's convenience crossing the border. Very clearly, you query giving this and that to the mainland. What's the purpose? There's no need to reason. It's a dead end.
The Shenzhen Bay model is the only thing that they have been quoting as support. However, the difference is that in the Shenzhen Bay case, it is Hong Kong law being applied in China. In Hong Kong, it is Chinese law being applied in Hong Kong.
Ex-lawmaker Margaret Ng participated in deliberations on the Shenzhen Bay Port draft bill.
There's no law in China which prohibits Hong Kong law from being applied. But the situation in Hong Kong is that the basic law prohibits Chinese law from being carried out in Hong Kong.
Basic Law Article 18 states laws in force in Hong Kong are the Basic Law, laws previously enforced in Hong Kong, and laws enacted by LegCo. National laws, except for those listed in Basic Law Annex 3, shall not be applied in Hong Kong. Article 19 says Hong Kong courts shall have jurisdiction over all cases in the SAR. Article 22 states central government, provincial, municipal, etc. personnel in Hong Kong must abide by the laws of the region. But it's proposed mainland laws be enforced in the Express Rail's mainland port area, and criminal cases would be dealt with in Chinese courts.
But what makes this very worrying is Hong Kong people don't actually know when they may have stepped on the toes of authorities in China. The uncertainty of the law and the draconian consequence following from this kind of breach is what we want to keep away from Hong Kong. The protection lies in the border. If you are within the border, you need not worry about Chinese law.
The Hong Kong government had examined at least 6 formulas for the high-speed rail's customs arrangements. One was minimal law enforcement.
Add customs, immigration, and quarantine regulations into Annex 3.
In the end, it adopted the Shenzhen Bay model, letting the mainland enforce its laws within a designated area.
From the security perspective, it should be able to manage security risk.
The prospect of implementing mainland laws here sparked a chain of queries. So what can be done in Hong Kong that might not in future be allowed in West Kowloon's mainland port area and train compartments?
If you use a local SIM card, you can still access Facebook on the mainland.
Hong Kong people can't accept it is wrong to chant redress June 4th and Charter 08 on the train.
I specifically had asked the Secretary for Security, over the last 20 years, has he got any record of Hong Kong people being arrested for having found material which contravenes mainland law? There is no such record.
Elsie Leung says mainland jurisdiction would apply only to a part of the train station, and freedoms, including of speech, that Hong Kongers now enjoy will not be stymied due to the co-location arrangements.
The boundary is virtual, so I mean it's not real, but it's very clear that once you depart from the Hong Kong checkpoint, then you are subject to the jurisdiction of the mainland port. So that cannot be clearer. When you go there, you already know the consequence of what you are facing. You'll be facing when you go to the mainland.
After the Causeway Bay Bookshop incident, nobody can feel safe, because here is Mr. Li Bo. He said that provided I stay in Hong Kong, I'm safe. They're repeating this. Provided you don't go into the West Kowloon, you are safe. You have to be very gullible in order to believe that.
Be absolutely brutally frank. The bookseller's case happened when there was no port area in West Kowloon. It had only 2 exit points where the high-speed rail travel, and that only leads to mainland. The other exit point is through border control. So I would have thought that it would make it far more difficult to cross the border and to grab anybody. The creation of the port area is for economic development and for ease of traffic reasons, and not for political reasons.
Margaret Ng says the biggest problem with the co-location proposal is Hong Kong people entering the area under mainland jurisdiction would still be in Hong Kong, but deprived of Hong Kong's legal protection. In 2013, someone stormed the PLA barracks and the case was given to the Hong Kong courts. Margaret notes Hong Kong laws are applied even in PLA premises or consulates enjoying diplomatic immunity.
The arrangement is totally different. It says that these people do not have to obey Hong Kong law because Hong Kong law does not apply. Chinese law applies. I think that once you breach a basic law, then you cannot have guarantee for Hong Kong people.
This is something which we have the right to say no. Why do we say yes? It's because it's beneficial to Hong Kong.
A variety of co-location arrangements are found overseas. Agreements signed by the United States, Canada, etc. are in a minimal form of law enforcement. American personnel in overseas immigration inspection zones don't have powers beyond border checkpoint duties.
Even if you look at international examples between US and Canada, between the US and Ireland, they do not cede complete jurisdictional power to the other state. What they do is they retain the basic rights and freedoms to enforce their laws and to protect their citizens.
Arrangements adopted by Britain and France are closer to the high-speed rail's complete jurisdiction. Special zones are set up in each other's country. Officers don't only enforce port duties, but can also arrest, detain, or execute court warrants. But they are restricted from using weapons to detain suspects.
Even if international examples do it that way, why are we ceding complete jurisdiction to the mainland? I do not understand.
The government stressed part of the train station is only leased to the mainland. There are 6 categories under Hong Kong jurisdiction, including facilities and buildings, fire prevention standards, employees' rights, insurance, and railway safety. Can we extend Hong Kong laws further to restrict mainland personnel and narrow the gap?
It would be very difficult to define by agreement or in writing of what are the circumstances that each side would have jurisdiction. If you want to share the power, then you have to provide for each situation, and you cannot envisage all of them.
If the government says we limit it to just carrying out customs clearance and so on, that is the minimal approach, still not allowed by the basic law. But you can see that the destructive threat is less, and at least the government is trying its best. But here we're seeing the opposite.
We would do everything we can, including filibustering, to stop it.
They should consider the matter not from the political angle, but from the practical angle, whether this is for the benefit of Hong Kong people.
The government says it expects a judicial review to be lodged against the co-location arrangements, but it's confident it will win in the law courts as well as in the now mainly pro-establishment legislature, where a bill is expected to be tabled in October. Well, thank you for watching our show. It will be re-aired on Monday, Tuesday and Saturday, as well as online and on mobile apps. Until next time, from the Pearl Report team, good night, good luck and good health.